President Trump said earlier in an interview with Time magazine. Israel will not annex the West Bank because I gave my word to the Arab states, and he said if we do this, we'll lose American support. Are the Americans now dictating policy to Israel? What is your response?
This is what you will always say. It doesn't matter. I very, very much appreciate the support of President Trump, both in the course of the war and also in my decision to enter the city of Gaza, also in the mobilization of the Arab world, in order to rescue, to bring out our hostages, with our military pressure and his political pressure. And we brought the 20 hostages alive, something that no one believed would be possible. And now, in the effort we are making, including in the conversation this evening with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and earlier with Vice President Vance, in order to advance the goals of demilitarizing Gaza and dismantling Hamas of its weapons and other important things to us. So that is what is important. I think what you see of the cooperation between us, between partners, is now an enormous blessing for the state of Israel. We are an independent state. Thank you.
Well, look, had a final productive day in Israel. Today I was mostly focused on meeting with the Ministry of Defense in Israel, understanding the security situation on the ground in Gaza, and obviously meeting with some of our military personnel as well. I mean, the whole purpose of this trip was to try to understand how to make the peace stick, how to move on to phase 2 successfully, and a big part of that is just understanding what would be necessary to police and secure Gaza so that on the one hand, we can provide stability and hopefully some humanitarian assistance to the Gazans, but on the other hand, ensure that Hamas is unable to threaten Israel. So it was a productive trip. I appreciate the Israeli government for hosting me. Really appreciate all the folks from Central Command in particular who are trying to make this peace stick. It's very important for our country, and I think that we're on a very good pathway. It's very early, but I do think that we've made a lot of progress in understanding what the composition of the ISF would look like and understanding what would be necessary for it to actually be effective, and then just to understand how Central Command is going to work with the troops who are going to actually be on the ground. Again, no American troops on the ground, but American troops supervising and mediating the peace, understanding what that relationship would look like. That's really what I was here to do. Well, look, our hope in the administration is that the International Security Force is going to now take the lead in disarming Hamas. That's going to take some time, and it's going to depend a lot on the composition of that force. There are certain countries who I expect will be quite good at it. There are other countries that can play a role, but I don't think are going to be quite as useful. But a lot of that depends on which forces actually come to bear and how we're actually able to implement this phase 2 of the peace plan. I do think that we're in a good place. I mean, for all of the difficulties and all the problems, right now, I think we can say with confidence that Israel is respecting the ceasefire, Hamas is respecting the ceasefire. Well, I think that we could actually have tens of thousands of Gazans moving into southern Gaza, where, again, you have the Hamas-free zone in the next couple of months, and then tens of thousands beyond that. I think the hope is to rebuild Rafah over the next 2 to 3 years, and theoretically you could have 500,000 people live in a rebuilt Rafah. But again, it's going to be sequencing. You're going to have first some people, and then more, and then hopefully in a couple years, 500,000 people living in security, living in comfort, and also living in a situation where they're not threatening their Israeli neighbors. Oh yeah, that was weird. I was sort of confused by that. Now, I actually asked somebody about it, and they told me that it was a symbolic vote, some symbolic vote to recognize or a symbolic vote to annex the West Bank. I mean, what I would say to that is when I asked about it, somebody told me that it was a political stunt, that it had no practical significance. It was purely symbolic. I mean, look, if it was a political stunt, it was a very stupid political stunt, and I personally take some insult to it. The West Bank is not going to be annexed by Israel. The policy of the Trump administration is that the West Bank will not be annexed by Israel. That will continue to be our policy. And if people want to take symbolic votes, they can do that. But we certainly weren't happy about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There was a vote at the Knesset on annexing the West Bank. Do you see it as a challenge to your peace efforts?
Could you say that louder, please?
Yes, yesterday there was a vote at the Knesset in Israel on annexing the West Bank. Do you see it as a challenge to your peace efforts?
Will you answer that, please? Because I cannot understand the words you're saying. Where are you from? Where are you from? You're from France, beautiful accent, but we can't understand what you're saying. Huh?
She said a vote at the Knesset on the West Bank.
The West Bank is, don't worry about the West Bank. Israel's not going to do anything with the West Bank, okay? Don't worry about it. Is that your question? They're not going to do anything with the West Bank. Don't worry about it.